Hey guys, Drifter here. Today we're going to be talking about skill-based matchmaking one more time. And the gameplay you're going to get to see is not me dropping a nuke on Rust, but rather J-Hub as he's leveling my account. I told him to level up the striker so it'd be all good and unlocked when I got on to stream my couple of games from the bed PC. And I was like, don't go too hard because I'm still learning how to game from the bed and I'm pretty bad right now. The man drops a nuke, and then every single lobby after that is insanely hard, full of sweats, made the stream really difficult and my life harder, and it was one of the few unique experiences I got being akin to a casual gamer that only has a little bit of time to come in and play and doesn't want to be in a sweaty lobby all the time. I do want to give you a warning before we move any further into this video that you should really buckle up because this is going to be a spicy video and I'm serious about that. If you don't want to hear somebody being very contrarian, if you don't want to hear somebody complaining, if you don't want to hear direct criticisms of probably you, the community, now is a good time to leave and watch any other video because more or less in the back end, we are going to have some spicy opinions flowing. Skill-based matchmaking is once again one of the most common topics in the Call of Duty community. The Reddit threads about it are nearly endless. There are tons and tons and tons of YouTube videos, Twitter or X posts, Facebook. Every social media website is flooded with this. You see the clan tag in game. You see people talking about it in game. You see people talking about it on Discord. And the consensus that the community has is that skill-based matchmaking is probably going to be the worst part of MW3. And their experience with the beta was that it was rather tight skill matching, and they're probably right. Of all of the things that's going to frustrate people long term about the game, skill matching is probably going to be number one. And I think the entire community would prefer connection-based matchmaking. Just match to the closest server with the best connections. And I think most of the community is reasonable enough to say that maybe we need some very loose skill matching, or at least keep that special bottom tier player protected bracket for new players, for people that play with disabilities and stuff like that. You don't want Doom Clan running around stomping people that are like special needs gamers playing on adaptive controllers. So that probably still needs to exist. But by and large, the community wants connection matching instead of skill matching. And I think Call of Duty is very unique as a game because it actually has a casual mode. 99% of new games that come out are all about the ranked mode, about leveling up, about ranking up, and unranked or casual play, which is what about 99% of Call of Duty players play, is basically just a big warm-up match in every other game where nothing matters and nobody cares. The same is more or less true of most of the big Battle Royale games because they all do some degree of skill matching in their systems, whether you really notice it or not. The better you get at those games, the harder your lobbies get, and those kind of work like Call of Duty in that the more competitive players like to rack up kills in lobbies, but they have their own ranked modes as well. For example, can any of you offhand think of a game with the casual mode being the focus? And I'll say not simple fun party games, not Jackbox, not the Animal Fight game or stuff like that, but a serious big boy shooter that got a lot of work and a lot of funding and is going to have a huge audience. What of these games does not have ranked as the main focus? None of them. Are all pretty much focused on ranked or their battle royale, and Call of Duty is the lone standout that I'm aware of that has a focus on casual play instead of its competitiveness. Oh, I think in one. Battlefield is a pretty casual game, but Battlefield 2042 is pretty much dead. Moving back to Call of Duty is at its core a casual game, with competitive being an afterthought, and there's very few modern games that operate like this. Activision, very early on in the CoD lifecycle, very quickly realized that some players were getting way too good for their game, and they were utterly dominating, destroying people, running, dropping nukes in every lobby, and making it not fun for everybody else to play, and that was causing issues with player retention. And they, at some point in eons past, hundreds of years ago, were probably running a more rudimentary simple connection algorithm with skill being a more limited factor, but that ended up with the top 1% of players dominating every single lobby, which means people stopped playing. People don't like getting dominated, they don't like getting stomped, they don't like going through the experience that I went through after J-Hub dropped a nuke on my account of having to sweat your balls off every single lobby. And that means that they're not going to be playing the game. They're not going to be maintaining monthly active users, which is what Activision cares about. They're not going to be buying microtransactions or DLC at the time. As a little side note, before we continue down this path, I will admit that recently, after the hand injury, skill-based matchmaking has been kind of nice for me. Of course, until J-Hub ruined it with the nuke. I used to not mind being in really competitive, sweaty lobbies. I liked competitive games. It was fun for me. I was able to compete more. But now with nearly broken hands that have very severely limited use and use time for that matter, I really don't have much patience for playing against the best, hardest players in the world. And I imagine that this, because I mean, I've only got a couple of games a day, right? So I imagine this is very similar to the single dad who only gets an hour or two of gaming before his kids go to bed. The college student who's really trying to finish that master's degree and can squeak in like 2 games a week just to kind of de-stress, and they don't want to be put in hyper-competitive lobbies. But back on topic, Activision knows that they have to find a way to even out these lobbies or they lose money. Thus, our current system of skill-based matchmaking was born and has been refined several times over the years. However, COD fans are tired of this. They complained about it for a long time. I was on the forefront of trying to prove it. I got the glory of being wrong 4 times in a row before finally being right and getting proof. People only remember the wrong ones. That's the fun part of all this. But COD fans know that it's real. We have the scientific evidence to prove that it's real. The company is still kind of moot on this point. They don't like talking about it. They don't like acknowledging that it exists. And what's been increasingly noticeable over the years through my testing, ACES testing, and repeated testing that I had nothing to do with is that the connection quality is being impacted by skill matching, that skill matching is in some capacity overriding connection quality. Now, when we first started doing these tests, we found relatively negligible changes in connection of 15 to 20 milliseconds of ping. That's what I found in my very older test. But in more recent games, it seems to be more in the 40 to 60 millisecond range, which is way more noticeable when you're gaming and is more likely to put you on out-of-region servers, which can result in more jitter and packet loss and stuff like that. And unfortunately, Activision absolutely does not care about this in the slightest, no matter how much you complain on Twitter or Reddit, because they have their own internal metrics that in some capacity shows that this is more profitable. Somewhere deep in the dark bowels of the research and development accounting department where they're slapping around abacuses and counting the beans and trying to make those dollars flow, somebody has found a master formula that proves that this somehow makes them more money. And like any good corporation, they're beholden to their shareholders and their profits, and that's what they're going to chase no matter how mad people get. And this is where I'm going to get flamed the most in this video, but I genuinely don't think that there is anything that we as a community can do about it. The community has tried everything in the world that I'm aware of, from boycotting the game, various protests online, on forums, in real life, online flame wars that have been raging for nearly a decade now. People have just been playing less or moving over to other games. I guess that's pretty similar to a boycott. And yet, despite all of this madness, all of this years of frustration and this maelstrom of negativity and hate, skill matching is going nowhere because it makes money. Over the years, skill-based matchmaking has become one of the most depressing topics in gaming for me. I would literally rather make videos about games that have gone woke because they have gay characters, talk about Gamergate again, or just whatever weird streamer drama is going on between XQC and whoever and Amaranth and all sorts of crazy Sniper Wolf nonsense. I would rather be in that community than I would be reviewing skill-based matchmaking stuff again. And yet, here I am making videos about it again. Now, why is that? That's because the community sentiment, the amount of negative emotion, the amount of hate is so high that my algorithmic reward for making a content piece like this to appeal to the viewer's emotional impulses will be insane. Even if this video gets a bajillion dislikes, just the thumbnail, just the topic, just this energy talking about it appeals to that base carnivore emotion that drives people bonkers. So I'm here for the views, straight up. And there are other creators that do that as well. There are creators that have literally made entire careers about complaining about skill matching or other stuff in gaming. Like, they don't have to go to work. They just have to make another video complaining about skill-based matchmaking, and that's life. Seems like a depressing life for me, but it is honestly quite an easy one. I do see the appeal of it. And speaking of life, for the life of me, I cannot fathom why players won't just move on to other games. I think there's so much nostalgia about Call of Duty. It's something that so many people grew up with. It's omnipresent, and when it's good, when you're playing a good COD game like Black Ops 3, it's so good. You remember it for decades to come, and every year you want that experience back, but most of the time, that's not what you're going to get. So here at the end of the video, all I have to say is that if you don't like skill-based matchmaking, The only way out of that is to just not buy Call of Duty games. Don't log on to Call of Duty. Don't play Call of Duty. Don't install it on your PC. Don't buy the microtransactions. Don't buy the merchandise. Don't get the game just for zombies. Sell or return the games to the stores. That makes retailers really mad. Don't engage in social media about the game. You would think that flaming and all sorts of hate on social media and negativity campaigns like that work, but in certain marketing contexts, like, look, we've got 1 million active fans here with opinions. That has value. It's basically the starve the beast strategy that some people try on the federal government. Driving down revenue is the only way that Activision will care and the only way that you will get change. The only way that this changes is when the community does something that makes the dollars go down. If the dollars don't go down, the blah, 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 blah on Twitter does not matter. But in my opinion, since even the most extreme of boycotts don't work, I've pretty much accepted the community has lost at this one. I believe that we as a community have utterly lost this battle. And sometimes when you grow up, you have to have enough wisdom to know when to cut your losses. You have to know that any more fight from this point on is simply pointless and a complete waste of your emotional energy, like arguing with a crazy ex. Or maybe kind of like how this video has been for me. And yet, as one boomer gamer like Drifter, who now has gray streaks in his hair, is too tired to continue the fight, dozens, thousands more pop up filled with the energy to carry on this cause, and are confused and irritated when me and others won't pick up their cross and carry their banner for them. It's just, it's an emotional labor, to be honest. So if you don't like skill-based matchmaking, there are literally thousands of other games to play. Off the top of my head, you've got Apex Legends. It's got a fun casual mode that people stomp around in, and ranked. Overwatch, that's mostly ranked, to be fair. Rainbow Six Siege, Valorant, CSGO 2, Team Fortress 2, Battlefield, pretty similar to Call of Duty in that the unranked casual mode is really the focus. PUBG, Fortnite, Halo, Tarkov, BattleBit, the list goes on, and these are all great games. Most of them have some degree of loose skill matching, I will admit, but if you hate COD that much, just go on and play any of these other great games. I do sometimes when I'm tired of Call of Duty. However, all of these games that do have skill matching are designed to be much more competitive from the base up, and most of them offer ranked modes to separate that from the main modes. We've tried that with Call of Duty. Almost never does COD have a good ranked mode. MW2 ranked mode looked pretty good this year. I didn't personally play it, but most of the community doesn't want that. They just want unranked and they want connection-driven lobbies, which is fine and fair, but that's just not what they're getting. So it's very, very frustrating to see the same story over and over and over and over again. And continuing to play Call of Duty only to complain about it and skill matching and how it's awful and how you wish this thing came back is literally no different than hate watching Velma on HBO Max. And I know that this has been a really salty commentary, hate-filled as a matter of fact. I've used that word quite a lot here, but I seriously need to get this off of my chest. I'm trying to get back into COD videos again. This is part of a greater strategy to draw algorithmic attention, and the sheer demand for skill-based matchmaking videos and blame and hate for anybody that doesn't share the exact same ideology is depressing. So I'm probably never going to talk about this topic again, I guess, unless I need views, in which case I'll just pony up and do another one of these. I don't know, guys. It's frustrating. It's depressing. I hear the community. We have the science to prove the thing is real. The company pretty much says nothing. The community demands this change. Change does not happen. Community still plays the game. Well, no wonder change doesn't happen. And I feel like if I were to actually cover this and try to change this or do anything about it, I would just be chasing my tail around for years and years and years and years. So I'm going to focus on more fun topics moving forward. Well, guys, that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something useful. Hope I didn't get you too down in the dumps. If I didn't, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.